Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby. If you thought that Bubble Girl's tickle torture was rough in the last episode, wait until you see what Deku goes through in his harsh training with Sir Nighteye, the former sidekick of All Might. Hello my friends and welcome to another review of My Hero Academia, another exciting episode which delves into the story of Deku, Izuku Midoriya, who is destined to become the greatest hero of all time. And this entire series is going to chronicle his journey, and that means we're going to see every single aspect of it. And it looks like the next chapter in his journey is about to begin as he becomes the apprentice of Sir Nighteye, the former sidekick of All Might. However, joining this guy is not actually going to be all that simple. He's going to be thrown through the ringer and put through a very rigorous test. I don't know about you guys, but I was getting some really big Naruto vibes from this episode, especially the test that Deku had to go through. You see, Sir Nighteye was not really all that impressed by his All Might impression. In fact, he was a little insulted by it, to be perfectly honest. In fact, I think that's one of the most fun things about both Sir Nighteye and Deku, is that they're both unabashed All Might fanboys. It's just the way that they portray that fandom is a little different, with Deku being very open about it and very loud and proud of his love of All Might, and Sir Nighteye being very serious about it, but also still managing to fill his entire room with All Might memorabilia. These two characters have a surprising amount in common, it's just their personalities are completely different. And what I do love is that Deku does try to appeal to Sir Nighteye's love of All Might by referencing the fact that his face is from a very specific part of All Might's past, something that Sir Nighteye does seem to actually get. However, he does not end up laughing, so he decides to give Deku one final test. And this is the scene that reminded me of Naruto. In fact, it reminded me of one of the most important scenes of that entire series, which was when Naruto was actually becoming a ninja for the very first time, and he was put through the bell test by his very own teacher, where he would have to try and steal a bell from him. This is incredibly similar, where Sir Nighteye says that he's not going to allow Deku to become a part of his organization unless he can steal a stamp from him and actually stamp this official piece of paper. The thing is, even though Deku is incredibly fast and powerful and has been trained by All Might and Gran Torino, Sir Nighteye has a very interesting quirk, which allows him to basically have the ultimate foresight. He can see into the future. Whenever he makes physical contact with someone and looks them directly in the eye, he can actually predict everything that's going to happen over the course of the next hour, which means it doesn't matter how fast you are, how powerful you are, as long as he performs this, he is going to pretty much be able to dodge every single thing. Of course, there are ways around this, and it's very difficult for Deku to actually learn this, but even with that, he still doesn't even manage to take the stamp away from him. But this entire scene is incredibly exciting because you get to see that Deku has learned a lot from Gran Torino, the way that he darts around the room, but there is one very distinguishing detail here that Sir Nighteye notices, which is that Deku, even though he is destroying a lot of the things in the room and bouncing off of the walls and causing a lot of damage, he's managing to not hurt any of the All Might memorabilia, the posters, the toys, whatever's around the room. And this actually impresses Sir Nighteye because he realizes that even under these circumstances, under so much pressure, he's still able to exert so much power but still have a lot of focus and not wanting to destroy the things that he really loves around him. This ends up basically catching his attention, and he decides that he's going to bring him into the group. So Deku is about to learn from someone really important, and their first mission is that they're actually going to be investigating the Shie Hasaikai, which of course is led by Overhaul, a character who was formally introduced in the last episode. We even get to learn that apparently his real name is Chisaki, and they really don't even waste any time in getting to any of this. They actually jump right into it in a post-credit scene at the end of the episode. More on that in a second. But basically, most of this episode follows Deku as he goes through this test. And while it is really exciting, I don't feel that it needed to be stretched across an entire episode. Still, I found myself getting pretty excited over the prospect that Deku is about to learn from another legendary hero, and one who's very different than Gran Torino and All Might. I can't wait to learn even a little bit more about why Sir Nighteye actually doesn't seem to want to work with All Might anymore, despite the fact that he seems to have a great amount of respect for this character. It seems like he begrudgingly had to leave his side, and I'm sure they're going to jump into that a little bit more as the episodes actually go on. The rest of the episode follows Deku as he tells his friends about his big accomplishment. We get to see that a number of other heroes are getting ready to go work under these internships and actually become a part of this work study. Tokoyami in particular looks like he's going to be getting one of the biggest upgrades here, as he's working with a character by the name of Hawks, who apparently is the third pro hero in the series. And we don't really get to see him in full, but apparently he is some sort of dude who has giant angel wings and can fly. He's kind of like Archangel from the X-Men, at least that's what I got from the very small image that they showed of him in this episode. But it makes perfect sense that a bird guy would be attracted to another bird guy, even though Tokiyami is incredibly creepy, but still very freaking awesome. But he's not the only character who's going to be going to do things. You also have Eijiro, who looks like he is going to be working with Tamaki, who was introduced in the last season, and then of course you have Asui and Ochako, who look like they're also going to be working with Hado, another one of those big three characters that was introduced at the end of the last season. So it looks like they're definitely going to be focusing on a small group of characters in this season, but honestly, I'm excited to see what they're going to do. These characters are arguably some of the most popular from the series, and they're also some of my favorites. Tokiyami, in particular, is one of my favorite characters from the series. He just exudes so much badassery, so I really can't wait to see what he's going to do under his training. But make sure to watch this entire episode, as there is a post-credit scene where it looks like Deku and his team are going to immediately start to get into their mission, where it ends with the scene of this little girl who is running through this dark alley as she's being chased by Overhaul, and this is none other than that horned girl who's actually seen in the intro and the outro of this brand new season, and apparently she goes by the name of Eri, and she's being chased down by Overhaul for some reason. I'm not really sure what this is, but she's very afraid of Overhaul, and Deku is there to actually help her out. But the episode ends with a cliffhanger of these characters finally meeting each other for the very first time. It blew my mind that they're just immediately getting right into this, although if the preview is any indication, it looks like this is going to be a very short encounter, and it looks like there's not really going to be anything they can actually do about this. A lot of this is owed to the fact that while Overhaul himself is clearly a bad guy, he sort of falls into the gray of things. They don't have any clear evidence that he's actually doing anything wrong here, and again, that's always the case with the Mafia and the Yakuza. You can't just go after them even though you know that they've done bad things. You have to do some real investigation. As for what he's doing with Eri, I have no idea. My only guess is that he's trying to utilize one of her quirks, or maybe even they're related in some sense. It's very obvious that he's abusing this girl in some way, but we just don't know really the circumstances behind it. So, what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? While this was an exciting one, not that much happened. Most of the episode followed Deku as he was going through this big training mission of trying to get the stamp from Sir Nighteye. And while it was exciting, like I said earlier, I think they could have cut it down significantly. I think they could have gotten through this entire event in about 5 minutes or so. But it still did a pretty good job of just showing that Deku is a character who never seems to give up and always has something else in the back of his mind that ends up surprising everyone that he ends up running into. While he was not able to take that stamp, he was still able to keep his cool and not completely destroy this room and all of its All Might memorabilia, something that Sir Nighteye really seemed to have respected, and that's why he decided to actually bring him into the fold. I think that was really awesome. Again though, like I said, I just felt that it was just a little slow throughout most of the episode. That being said, I still did love the development, and I love that we got that cliffhanger scene at the very end of the episode. If anything, it sent a chill down my spine and has got me really excited for the rest of the season. I'm also just as interested to see what's going to go on with Deku's classmates, because I just want to learn more about these side characters, and I love Eijiro. I think he's incredibly awesome and one of the most badass characters. Tokiyami is great too, but Ochako and Asui are also two of the most popular female characters from the series, and the fact that they're going to get some personal training from the big three is kind of a big deal, and if the intro is any indication, it also means we're going to get to see more wacky and crazy side characters, so that's definitely something to look forward to. On the technical side of things, this was a pretty good looking episode that didn't exactly reinvent the wheel in terms of what it's doing in terms of animation, but everything looked pretty clean for the most part, especially the big scenes with Deku using his full cowling and bouncing around Sir Nighteye's office. I just can't wait to see more, but again, this was kind of a slow one, I do have to admit, which is why I am going to begrudgingly give this episode a 3 out of 5. Now, a 3 out of 5 is not bad, it just means it's kind of an average episode, but as far as average episodes go, this one was still really top-notch. I almost wanted to give it a 4 out of 5, but again, I felt like that first event of the episode really could have been cut down a little bit more, and we could have finally gotten a little bit more into the actual meat of this story. That being said, this was still an incredibly satisfying episode that any fan of the series should check out at least once. In fact, this is still mandatory viewing if you're following the series as far as I am concerned. So a really solid episode that almost was a 4 out of 5, but still one that I think is incredibly entertaining. So there's my thoughts on the episode. I'd love to get yours. Tell me all of them in the comment section below. What did you think of Deku's training, the character of Sir Nighteye? Do you like his quirk ability, being able to see into the future for an hour? What do you hope to see from Deku's other classmates as they go forward into their work-study training? And what's going to happen with that confrontation with Overhaul and the little girl Eri? Let's get excited for it. Let's discuss it in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching this review. If you liked the video, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews just like this and tons of other discussions and podcast videos. Thank you all again for watching. I'll see you all next time, and as always, plus ultra, baby!